Always a rare pleasure to have Mr. Hardeep Puri, Union Minister of Petrol and Natural Gas, to talk about the big vision for the sector. India Energy Week, some questions which may impact stock prices in the market, which is about where LPG subsidy and where gas allocation is moving. But more importantly, the fact he's in Mumbai and he's talking to ET now, it's a privilege for us. So nice to have you on ET now, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
India Energy Week, what started as an idea, now seems to be becoming a global event. How will this year's event be bigger than last year?
You know, I had a friend who's a very famous overseas Indian. And I used to pull his leg because he used to turn around and tell me, he used to call me, he said, "Ek idea aaya hai, ek thought aayi hai." I hope he's not listening. Because I'm saying it in a positive way.
Yes, yes.
So I used to tell him, "Ye idea thought to theek hai, isko implement kaise karoge?"
Right.
Because and he used to have he was an ideas a minute man, you know. But no, this one really seriously. We were having events earlier also.
Yeah.
In the previous dispensation, before I arrived on the scene, there used to be an annual event which a foreign company, outside, I think Houston-based, they used to organize something here. They do a week outside. They used to do one here. But when I came on, I felt that given India's potential, given the immense possibilities here for, it was very, very strange that we didn't do something on a larger scale. What did I have in mind? You see, you have for Gastech in Houston, huge. You have Davos, but that's overall. You have Adipec in Abu Dhabi. Why not an India energy-centered week? So we started the idea, and the idea maturing was quick. We had the first event in Goa, second event in Bangalore, and it is the third event. And if you look at the amount of space, international exhibitors, international participants, and they're all on international fees, by the way, because we also wanted to maintain a certain quality. But general public is invited free. I mean, there'll be a large footfall. You know, we did one better than that, and I can share that with you. When we saw the success of the first event, ONGC has about 240, 250 acres in Goa. They decided to develop that as a permanent conference site with hotels and everything. So, first event Goa, second event Bangalore, third event from 11th to 14th February Delhi. Next one, next year, will be in its permanent home. And Goa in February, and the growing Indian energy scene. That is, I think, more important. The fact is, people are coming here not just because it's India, but there is economic opportunity and potential. You are importing, you are consuming 5.5 million barrels a day. Most of it is imported. You have the fourth largest refining capacity. You are going up the value chain in petchem. Your biofuel blending program is it's an international success. You've gone from 1.4% to 19%. Your green hydrogen, by all accounts, if you look at the latest tender which has been floated by IOCL, is going to be a big story. So a country which is both importer, refiner, producer, biofuel blender, it has all the ingredients. But the India Energy Week is not just petroleum and natural gas in terms of the startups, the technology. There are guys who go around claiming, and they will demonstrate it. When I went to the second IEW, I was accompanying the Hon'ble Prime Minister. We went to I think it was the BPCL stall. They said, well, this is a indigenously manufactured electrolyzer. Indigenously manufactured by BPCL in collaboration with BARC. And I remembered, I used to be JS Navy, Joint Secretary for the Navy and the Defense Ministry. And you know, in a submarine, you have the technology. You separate the water to produce hydrogen. And here another young startup came to see me and said, sir, I'm producing a membraneless electrolyzer. You have that on one side. On the other hand, you have Siemens who want to produce a huge industrial size electrolyzer. Those conversations, both in terms of traditional fossil fuels, biofuels, green hydrogen, can take place on those days. You've got world leaders, you've got CEOs. You know, there is a world of difference between a government to government action program. And they'll be there also. I mean, we've got new suppliers coming on board. We've got, but truly, India Energy Week, in a sense, also encapsulates and signifies all the positive things that are happening in the India energy scene per se.
As a journalist, if I don't ask you about government policy, what is happening to gas allocation, I will not be doing my dharma. So I will come to that.
But I would never want you to be placed in that situation, so please ask him.
No, I'll come to that. But perhaps what I just want to bring out is the big picture, which in a sense is not very well discussed and perhaps talked about, which is the kind of achievements you've done in clean fuel. Ethanol, it's been a resounding success. Hydrogen, it's been a resounding success. In last 3 to 4 years, if one has to really look at the progress on ethanol, I think it's highest in the world.
It's phenomenal. No, I'll tell you what. I was ambassador to Brazil from the years 2006 to 2008. I think January 2006 to May 2008. And when I used to come to India during this period, all my friends in the journalistic world, I won't name them because they have to eat humble crow now. So I used to come here, they used to joke, say, oh, ethanol aa gaya, because I should talk about ethanol. I used to write letters. Yes. I have this bad habit, if something I feel strongly on, I write letters on it all over the place. The Brazilians told me, and I got the inspiration from UNICA, the Brazilian cooperative organization, which is the overall apex body for ethanol production. They told me, the UNICA president was here for Bharat Mobility. He told me that what you guys have achieved in the last few years, we took 20 years to achieve. Yeah. But I was equally gracious with him. I said, but we learned from you. I mean, I'm saying this is a very interesting characteristic of the Prime Minister. I once told him that our metro system has done well thanks to you, and he said, yeah, but you learned from the example of countries like Japan. I was telling him when I went to Japan as a language student, when I was joining the foreign service, and I used to say, when will we have this kind of urban transport? I used to bring, and today we have. Today Delhi Metro has a footfall of 70 lakhs a day. I mean, it's a lifeline in the transport system. So, but he characteristically told me, but you have benefited from the work that the others have done. So I told, same applies to ethanol. But it's truly a remarkable story, but not because you've gone to 19%. To me, the remarkable part is something else. Nikunji, in my 3 years life, or 3.5 years life in the Petroleum Ministry, I've had many anxious moments. Sometimes I would find that some of my colleagues, because they had other priorities, would shut off the availability of X feed or Y feed. Today, you're sitting pretty. Everybody wants to give you more feed. And you're diversifying. You've gone from sugarcane, you've gone to maize, you've gone to 2G, parali, agricultural waste. You are going to go to bamboo very shortly. And then you're going to go to industrial gases, etc. You look at that, and sometimes all of us, at least I don't, and maybe you are more professional that you can see it, we don't actually comprehend the revolutionary scale at which change is taking place. I went to Bharat Mobility the other day. When I was walking in, somebody whispered in my ear, there are 19 flex fuel vehicles on display. 19. So I thought, I must say, I'm a cynic, anybody gives me good news. I first thought, is he pulling my leg or... I asked a counter question when I went to see those 19. I said, how many of these are at prototype and how many are ready for being sold? I was amazed. All of them can come on the market in the next 6 months. Because they were manufacturers who, manufacturers are our local manufacturers, making 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers. So I asked you a question. If 19 flex fuel vehicles can come on the market, why is it significant? One is the more obvious answer. If they are using ethanol, then it is cleaner. But the cost factor, it's a major change. Why? An electric vehicle typically is so many percentage more expensive. But the flex fuel vehicle, I asked this question, my wife, who's by the way, economically not only independent, but she's actually quite well-to-do because of her past life. So she has a nice car which runs on part battery and part petrol. And we bought that car some years ago. And I said, how much does this one cost? That was a flex fuel version. Just 40,000 rupees more than the other one. So if you had a choice between buying a car which is, say, X, let's say 10 lakhs of rupees car, okay? But the flex fuel version is only 40,000 rupees more. and you have reasonable confidence in the government that the cost of the blended fuel will be okay. And by the way, that's going to be a challenge, because if thanks to President Trump, if the international price of oil comes down, the flex fuel, in order to become relevant, will also have to be more competitive. Dude, we are selling, by the way, E100 fuel, which is 100% ethanol, in 4 of our, in many locations, in 4 of our states, I think 400 places, 400 retailing points. And when we did that, some people came to me, yaar, kya kar rahe ho yaar? Yaar, tum E100 बेच तो रहे हो, इसको use कौन करेगा? And you know, as a cynic, what I tell them, मैंने कहा वो जो tractor चलाने वाले हैं ना, I hope some of them shift from diesel to this. I did. But today that there is a requirement with these new cars coming in. By the way, I don't know whether you, although you're very well informed, 70% of our vehicular traffic on the road is 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers.
Yes.
70%. So if these guys already on battery swapping, if they move to flexi fuel, look at what a change that is. The electric vehicles will also come. But typically, if you look at the percentage, the flexi fuel vehicles, growth is higher than the electric vehicles.
Mr. Puri, I distinctly remember we had a conversation when the Ukraine and Russia war has just about broke out, and India had a major victory in the oil diplomacy. We started importing from Russia. Now the terrain is changing. There is a change of guard in America. We have a great equation in terms of the supply from Russia. How do you see the dynamics changing for India in the light of what is happening in the world?
The one constant factor is that India will import from wherever it has to. If there's discounts are very good from a particular source, we will go there, because our policy is to issue a tender at the point of importation. So the tender will be issued if we need particular grade of crude. Can you supply? Somebody will come, we'll give it to the cheapest guy. So we have term contracts also, we have this thing. I am not worried about that. And I don't think that our characterization of the world changing, we were importing less than 0.2% from Russia, went up to 30% or so.
What is the number right now, sir?
I think about 30% or so.
You
our figures are 1 month old, etc.
Okay.
But, there are some philosophical questions also that the traditional suppliers have to answer. If more and more oil is coming on the market, and my submission to you is that Western Hemisphere is producing a lot of oil.
Yes.
Do you want to hang on to your policy of production cuts, or do you want to unleash it? Obviously, if you unleash all of it, price will come down, President Trump will be happy, we will be happy. But if you don't bring it on, somebody else will bring it. Not everybody is a member of OPEC Plus.
Yes.
I mean, for instance, the Brazilians, I asked them, how are you? Oh, we are members of OPEC, but we are not agreeing to production cut. A lot of other people will say, there are some economies which have this resource, which would rather that they extract and sell, rather than and meet their developmental challenges, address their developmental challenge. So I'm not worried about that. I think Russia will be an important player. Russian production in the good old days used to be 13 million barrels a day.
Yes.
I think Europe is still buying a lot of natural gas from Russia. The issue is whether they will buy from else. This is a competitive, growing, diversifying marketplace, and I also don't see the conflict continuing. Beyond a point, you can't have conflicts which are frozen now. It's been since February 22. We are already in, we're going to be soon in February 25. I think March, hopefully, if you go by the positive, I always look for the positive signal, by the way. So if the conflict begins to wind down, any case, the problem will be solved.
Again, I'll take a leap of our last interaction. And that time, oil prices had shot up. And you said, look, OMCs have played the role of being a perfect corporate citizen. Right now, there is a under-recovery in LPG. So are they playing the role of being a perfect corporate citizen?
They are. There is under-recovery. But, they can hopefully, I keep calling them good corporate citizens. Last time, I remember our conversation, I think the under-recovery was 28,000 crores.
Yes.
And like a good government and fond of good corporate citizens, we gave them 22,000 crores back. I don't know, I think the under-recovery is more now. And I think it would be only fair that some this year, some next year. And by the way, the gas prices are coming down after that. So this is not a problem that we will face institutionally on a perennial basis.
So if gas prices have come down and availability is going to increase, can I assume that at least for the city gas distributors, the quota allocations...
We restored it. We cut some and we restored it later.
And would that policy be maintained?
Oh, 100%. We'll supply to everyone. Because as I said, when more gas is available, now now it's a difference between the APM gas and the other gas. But if cheaper gas becomes available outside, even the US wants to sell, and US gas is cheaper, by the way. So I see this problem being not only addressed but resolved.
I'll shamelessly extend my appointment with you by 2 more questions. We rarely get a chance to talk to you, so I want to make the most.
No, let me know. I'll come across. I'm quite happy to talk to you. Somebody else's interview will get cut out, but doesn't matter.
No, I'm going to just remind our viewers that Hardeep Puri believes in one thing, that he focuses on the short term, but he knows that the rate of change is something he cannot ignore. And there's a rate of change which is happening here. And the rate of change is that the world is changing, carbon demand is changing, alternates are getting created. 5 years from now, if you're having a conversation, how do you see the importance of fossil fuel, the dependence of India changing? Because breakthroughs will happen, sir. Breakthroughs both within the sector and outside the sector will change the energy dynamics.
I have a granddaughter and she's very smart. She tells me if she were sitting here, she said, and I would say, this is a trick question. Now, why is it a trick question? Let me tell you. An equivalent of that question is, till when do you see India's oil demand growing and when will it peak? Yesterday, I saw a study, and I have it somewhere. 5 different studies give 5 different points till which it will grow. Most of them are convinced that at least till 2040 it will grow. Oil demand will go on. One, in fact, says it will go up to 2046, 2050 also. Now, these are all, international, the well-established guide. What will be your energy mix in 2050? That's after your Atmanirbhar. All of them, all the studies said at least 20% will be traditional oil. The rest can vary. You will have biofuels, you will have green hydrogen, you will have other issues. My sense is, when you're doing economic policy planning in the energy sector, you need what I used to in Defense Ministry call a perspective plan, which is 15 years. You must be clear of what you want now. Clear just now, you need to increase your E&P for the simple reason, God forbid, if there is I don't know whether this term my friend coined, black swan or something like that. No, supposing something happens and suddenly everybody says no fossil fuel. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening because if it's a balance between the environmentalist lobby, etc. Look, I'm on the environment side, but I justify our action saying that biofuel blending has become 20%, green hydrogen is going, so we are doing a bit. But you need your own E&P. And that E&P, I'm confident now with that 1 million square kilometers released, with the OALP 10th round coming, where our legislation now hopefully will be passed by the Lok Sabha shortly. Today, people want to come to India because they believe that there is a Guyana waiting to be discovered in the Andaman Sea. Okay, that's how Guyana was.
Yes,
I'm saying a Guyana, no disrespect. Drill 16 times, cost hundreds of millions of dollars per drilling, 16 times, nothing, I'm 70. Here is the same Andaman Sea, this is where there has been oil earlier, you'll get it. What do we want to do? We want to make sure that our transition to green is steady. Our dependence on first of all, dependence on imports decreases. Our dependence on fossil fuels gradually goes down. And then it's a win-win economically. And I think that's happening.
So what is your estimate? How much oil do you think we would be importing in the next 5 years? I'm sure you have that number.
Look, I don't know what is my current consumption is 5.5 million. If the economy grows at 6.5%, 7%, I personally think we should go for a little. The figure will go up to from 5.5 to 6 and maximum 7 million barrels a day. Out of which, if my domestic production goes on, we'll still be importing a fair amount.
The Prime Minister has termed this time as the Amrit Kal of India. And the next push by the government is to make India Atmanirbhar on all accounts.
No, that's the 2047
yes,
ke pehle
and mark towards Viksit Bharat.
Absolutely.
Energy security is something which is crucial. It is critical. And the dependence on fossil fuel, sir, is not going to reduce. While clean and green is parallel, the fossil fuel dependence will not reduce.
Because yours is a sui generis situation. Nikunj, we are not like an oil country. Abhi itni consumption. Consumption बढ़ती जा रही है. Uske andar you are increasing it na. Today, ONGC can claim around saying I'm producing 45,000 barrels. Or they're using 45,000 off the Kakinada coast. Others are coming in. We'll get more discovery. You'll get more oil, you'll get more E&P, but your domestic consumption is going up at such a ferocious rate that percentage. So You know, somebody can turn around and be cynical. अरे आप बोल रहे थे कम करना है, but आपने तो 80 से 85 हो गया, 88% हो गया. But they don't say that because they also acknowledge that your domestic ENP is going up. If I did not have the lag of that lazy decade from 2006 to 16, any decision that you take today, Nikunj, it will benefit my successor.
You're planting the trees, others will enjoy the shade.
No,
That's what they
absolutely,
always say.
absolutely. And but you incur the cost. No, I have a very simple take. I have a monthly brainstorming with the oil marketing company. Sometimes I think editors or senior people like you should sit in on some of the session just to understand the nature of the discussion. One very fascinating discussion was, I asked the ONG person, I said, you are doing, why haven't you done it? He said, आप देखिए, आप well drilling में $100 million, आप say 3 well, $300 million, your book is down. But the result will come in somebody else's time. So any CMD in a OMC will think twice. But I'll tell you something, that is changing now. People are, when you make good profits, people are also saying set some money aside, because then you will be in a situation that, the company will also grow.
I'll wrap it up with one question. I've been always wanting to ask you this question. You had various avatars, various roles over the years, being an ambassador of foreign service, different ministries. What is that you miss a lot about your earlier avatars, and what is that you
No, I don't miss it. I mean, I was in a profession where every 3 months you have to change your posting here.
Exactly.
So somebody asked me jokingly, how does it feel to be a minister? I said, is posting mein 8 saal ho gaye, because I had 8 saal. So I've actually done 3 foreign service postings, on my 3rd foreign service posting.
So what is the life of a minister? What is your life? What time do you start? What time
6:30 in the morning.
Okay.
And you go on till 11 o'clock at night. And then you're on call all the time.
And are you approaching?
And you have to be very cautious about what you say, because somebody can put a word in your mouth and then trolled. I say, thoda kam ho raha abhi. But I tell my social media team, be careful. Even what you think is a fact, be a little careful. No, minister has to be restrained. And I think if there is something that I can say, my civil service training helps me keep restraint. Because sometimes you have atrocious things being said. You feel like telling the other person. As a civil servant, sometimes you get away with it. I although think the civil servant also has to be restrained. But as a politician, as an academic, you as a journalist, my God, the kind of statements that a journalist can get away from.
Well, sir, thank you very much. And before I'm kicked out of this room for extending my interview with you, I'll say thank you.
No, but I enjoyed the extension that you did. I'll probably be at the receiving end from the next interview, but that'll have to be done after we have the meeting with investors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.